Throughout my 9 years of sobriety, I've received comments complimenting me on my willpower to not have used a drink or a drug in 9 years. I'm here to tell you, it has absolutely nothing to do with that.
I'm JT. I'm in my mid-30s, have a 10-year media career, and nearly a decade of sobriety. So how did another middle-class kid turn into a blackout drunk and a heroin junkie? More importantly, how did it change, and where do we go from here? This is my story.
Okay, now look, sure, when I was a teenager and definitely when I was in college, willpower had a little bit to do with it. I think there were probably a few times that I went out with my friends, went to a party, or went out on the town and thought to myself, maybe tonight I just don't drink. I can't say that actually happened too terribly much. In fact, I know for sure in college my goal was to be drinking or using as much as possible. Then we fast forward to when I'm getting off of heroin, to when I'm withdrawing for the first time with intent to not use, when I'm first sober, starting in December of 2011. I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you willpower had a little bit to do with that. Why? Well, because your skin is literally crawling, telling you that you need heroin. So there is a little bit of willpower to do with that, but the way I got through that was through the tools and resources of recovery. I called someone else to the program. They talked me through it. I exercise. That really helps with withdrawals. It doesn't get you all the way there, but it does help. Here's what it's like going through my day-to-day life, never wanting to have a drink or a drug. And how exactly does that relate to willpower? I'll tell you, I don't have to fight urges. I don't have urges to use alcohol or to use drugs. They don't happen. And it has pretty much been that way since I got sober. There are a few little caveats. Well, I shouldn't call them little. There are some big caveats to how that relates to the program that I won't get into here out of respect for the traditions, but I will tell you that asking my higher power to relieve me of the urge has something to do with that. But the majority of it for me day to day as I walk through my daily life as it relates to someone who might not be in the program is this. I like my life now. That peace and contentment that I never had, that hole in my soul that I was fighting my entire life through, that I talked about a few videos before, that's gone. And so since that's gone, and I can very easily connect the dots between how I felt then, how I feel now, what's the difference? And I truly believe and know in my heart of hearts, if I were to use a drink or a drug today, I could lose this feeling of contentment and peace that I have now. I live with that. I'm in that constant state of mind because I'm doing the things I need to do. I'm following my regimen. I'm using my resources of recovery. I'm surrounding myself with people who are also in recovery, reminding me that I can't get too far off the beaten path. And because I live in that space right there, I don't have to fight the urges to use, to drink, or to use drugs. And yes, that includes going out to social events, going out to bars and restaurants, going to clubs, going to weddings. I don't have to fight through it. What I do have to fight through today is the urge to just leave. I get tired easier. I get restless around a lot of drinking more easily. And yes, if I'm like a date to a wedding or to a party and it's getting a little bit rowdy, I have to really practice patience to get through some of those moments. Not for the first hour I'm there, but, as the night lingers on and I'm trying to be a good date, to be a good partner, to be a good significant other, I do have to fight through those things. But you have to have understanding people around you. I really fight through this at like holidays with my family who trigger me more than anyone else. It really helps to have people in the know around you, to have that conversation with them beforehand, to go, look, at some point, I might just have to hit the eject button. Sorry, my life depends on it. Usually they understand. So it's not fighting the willpower to use a drink or a drug. It's fighting the willpower to not be a jerk, to not pipe off, to not show those signs of restless, irritable discontent. But it is because I have the peace and contentment that I have today, And I truly believe that if I were to have a drink or a drug today, that I could lose all that. It might not happen right there that moment, but I believe it would happen soon thereafter. It's because of that I don't fight urges. I will also say, again, healthy diet and exercise, having the right people around me, of the utmost importance to not having to fight those urges. I know where I live. It's right in this space. I can't go too far over here. I can't go too far over here. If I live in this space, I don't have to fight those urges. However, there are moments where I do have the fleeting thought of, hey, it would be nice to have a drink at this moment. Hey, maybe I could have a puff of marijuana. Those fleeting experiences do happen. They're thoughts. They're puffs of ideas. And for me, luckily, because I've been graced with this life and this acceptance of what I have to do today to not use or drink or have those urges, they quickly go away. I can't explain that as anything other than a spiritual experience. And being firm in my regimen and truly believing what I say I believe, but they do come up from time to time. I'm talking for me, and it's different for everybody, 2-3 times a year. I may have one of those thoughts. I have a dream every now and then. Those are really scary. Those are nice to wake up from and know that you didn't just get a DWI or a terrible car crash or end up in jail, because those dreams do pop up. I dealt with them more frequently when I was first getting sober. And this will lead us into a topic for another time about spirituality and how I reconcile that. But that's where I first recognized having a spiritual experience, was early on in my sobriety. I would have those thoughts, those fleeting thoughts of using, just the feeling of the first perfect spring day, that smell in the air. For me, a person who was easily triggered, I immediately thought of drugs. It's kind of weird, but I'm one of those people who found a good feeling as an excuse to go find more of a good feeling. In those moments, I recognized the space between me having that thought and me calling my drug dealer. I recognized that as God. That was a spiritual experience acting upon my existence to keep me from that next step. Not gonna throw down the roadblocks and completely stop me. We do have free will on this planet, I believe. But it was that buffer. And today, that buffer is even larger because I have gone, and I do believe that a certain amount of time in sobriety, while I only have today, and I could lose it just like that, and I could go back to my beginning form, my nature, very easily, I do believe that that time compounded, that I have learned, and that my experience guides me, and that next drug is a lot further out of reach than it was a week or a month into sobriety. I mean, I don't even know who I'd call today. I'm sure I wouldn't have to look too hard. We kind of have that sixth sense of where to go if we need it. But the longer I've been sober, it has been easier to deal with. But I can't credit that with anything but spiritual experience and following the tenets of my recovery, keeping the right people around me, and keeping the right mindset. Okay. Let's get the mail. I ask you to please comment. Feel free to DM. You can comment right here on the video. You can comment when I share it on Instagram or Facebook. And I have received fantastic feedback. It has been so gratifying. It's been worth everything that I've put into doing these videos to receive the comments and feedback that you have provided. So I want to share those with you. Here's one from Instagram. This is Hurricane4104. Speaking, of course, on my comment that I didn't relapse going through the process of losing my mom. He says, the positive thing is the fact that you didn't relapse. Give yourself credit, bro. I wanted to show this for a reason, and thank you so much, by the way. I have received several comments similar to this, saying, JT, you really should be less hard on yourself. You need to give yourself more credit. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I can be hard on myself. However, it is very important to my recovery that I stay right here, right? It is important that I have a healthy evaluation of self. It is important that I don't give myself too much credit. I need to give myself credit, but I need to be humble and honest about where I am the mistakes I've made, the failures that I continue to make, because otherwise I won't get better. I'm so happy to have this life. I'm thrilled to have 9 years of sobriety. I couldn't be more ecstatic about it, but I want more out of my life. I want even more. And if I want even more, I need to push harder. Look, there are things that I was taught on day one of recovery that I still don't do right. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I know I can do them right. I know I can do them right if I mold my life and my actions in the right way, and I haven't gotten all the way there yet. So I know I still have so much room to go. That is why it's important for me to be honest about my shortcomings. Next, we're going to go to Dave. Dave commented on YouTube on the video about my mom. Dave says, "Hugs, brother. I appreciate seeing your vulnerability. I lost both my parents, my mom being the hardest. I'm here if you ever need someone to listen." Again, I feel like me getting to talk into this camera and receiving the feedback from all of you is me having people listen. It's fantastic. Thank you so much. Dave, thank you for the comment. As hard as it was to lose my mom, and remember I talked about that gift I got, that spiritual gift of feeling the love around me to soften the grief of that experience, I can't imagine having lost both my parents at this point. I'm just getting to the point where I start to feel like I'm taking care of my dad more emotionally. Whereas he was always taking care of me. We're kind of having that turnover experience. But I don't know how I could get through having lost both of them, especially in a short time frame like that. I'm really looking forward to a lot more years with my dad. And the way that I dealt with my mom's loss makes me appreciate having my dad here so much. And there's so much more that I want to experience with him, even though he drives me more crazy than almost any human being on the face of the planet many times. And somehow it's getting more so like that. The older I get, the older he gets. Dad's going to be odd at some point. We'll go through some of that with him. All right, that's the mail. Again, please feel free to reach out, comment, DM, any questions you may have. I will answer them. Hit me up, and we'll see you next time. Hey family, if you like what we're doing here and you want to see more, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. Share it with someone who you think might benefit from watching this, and feel free to comment below. Love.